Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another week of the Corporate Esports Association Overwatch tournament. I'm BiggHungryPhill, and helping me bring you the action is the one, the only, the ManofClass himself, Mr. Olaf Soff. Olaf, welcome to the broadcast. What do we got to do today? And I know I'm throwing you off by calling you Olaf, so let me know how you feel about it.
Oh, it's fine. It's my name. You know, it's completely fine, Phil. We've got Google Dive versus Amazon. Download more RAM, and of course, a battle of the giant companies, but not necessarily battle of the giants when it comes to SR. So if anyone was looking for, we're gonna get the GM players today, that's gonna help you out of that dream, but that doesn't mean it's not gonna be entertaining, Phil.
No, it should be fun. We have another one of these rare gems, these nuggets of fool's gold. We do have a 3-figure SR player in the lobby today, specifically competing for Google Dive. Just letting me check this up. We do actually have them in the lobby ready to go. They will be in the starting lineup. So you're going to be looking out here for Saber Seahart. And if last week's game taught us anything, guys, it's don't count out those 3-digit SR players, because they can and will have big pop-off moments. A bit of a surprise last week.
Yeah, very much so. And of course, when you get them to face off in an SR bracket that is, technically speaking, very much their level, you know, the rest of their team, if they are able to keep that SR and with their opponents consistently even, then yes, you're going to see them pop off. Because it's only really when the SRs are completely mismatched or the skill levels of the team are completely mismatched that you cannot see the potential of players come out sometimes. And that's why I love this, because we can still see as players like Saber Seahard actually do a very good job on the heroes they play.
Yeah.
The same thing can still, of course, be said for the rest of their roster. So we look at Amazon DMR side, both Twinny and Hula going to be coming up here with, I believe that's the tank lineup. No, that's actually DPS lineup. That's my bad. I'm sorry. We're doing DPS tank support here. So it's Mel Gibson and Black Betty going over on the tank instead. And then Far Finugan. Yeah, that's exactly how you spell Far Finugen, maybe? I don't know.
I believe it's meant to be like
Seku.
Farfiknugan, which is like, I think it's a German cookie.
It's
I could
possible.
be wrong about that.
At least,
Yeah.
you know, together with Siku, they're actually going to be able to line up the back with that support duo. So yeah, and what I appreciate about Amazon Download More RAM is that they've actually got their own team website. You can actually go to www.teamamazondmr.com and check out their players. They've got like nice pictures there, a little bit like a tidbit, one-liner about who they are as a person. And you can actually, catch their streams when we're not streaming them. They're also streaming their games and scrims sometimes. So, be sure to check that out.
Yeah. That gives me the intrinsic feeling that, like, maybe that's the team we got to be watching here because, they're prepared. They've got a website. Their names are on the website. They've been playing as a team for a little while, presumably. Actually, looking at the website, there are definitely some posts from a little while back. So some sort of formation of Download More RAM have been playing together for a little while. So I think that's where we're going to be looking for our early suggestion as to who's going to be bringing out the W here today. But we do have our first map locked in, lined up, loaded up, ready to go, and we're going to be starting at Busan and Mecha Base to start things off with today, Classy.
Yeah, looking at what they're doing in Spawn so far, this is something that I'm actually very excited by. Both of the main tanks going with a Reinhardt here. I mean, Orissa's been buffed in the recent patch. I was hoping for maybe some Orissa. But then again, it's such a close encounter map all the time that I don't mind both teams going for more of a brawl style.
Yeah, it's a fairly quintessential brawl map, and whilst the Battle Cattle is more battlier and more cattlier after the last round of buffs, maybe not the map to bring that out today. Instead, seeing the Rushdown comp coming through, looking a little more cohesive here for Google Dive with the Reinhardt Zarya synergy. Nice aggression here coming out from Mobile. Just walks right past Black Betty. Might be getting the business end of a bit of retaliation there. We find Giant Axe focused down. Coffee now with the Ray Form offline. Bo Twinny slightly late to the fight here. Might be a little bit too late to really help his team out with this one, although as the rest comes through. And brings Farfig Newton back into the fight. We're in a good position now for both teams. Nobody really taking the upper hand just yet.
It's going back and forth, but they're both getting kickoffs here. DPS and a main tank downfill. It's a scrappy fight at that. And with Brawl versus
yeah, Hula rocking that one with the high noon, gets both supports off the table for Google Dive, and it's been a little while in the offing, but Download More RAM with the first cap.
I like seeing high noons get value like that. It's not even that they're going on a flank and setting it up, and they're using it mid-fight in a situation where their Wrecking Ball actually knocked up a few players. That's combo play, and that's so good to see at this level of play already.
I like the Download More RAM have not just passively sat themselves on the point to camp. They've come up onto the high ground to start the fight up, but they may have overestimated the safety of their position because Coffee comes in with the Death Blossom, finds the double. There's the work down on Black Betty. Bambalam and back to spawn for you, my friend. Looking for the flip here for Google Dive as we get 40% on the board for Download More RAM.
And just as beautiful as that high noon Wrecking Ball combo was before, so beautiful was the entire team just reacting to that speed boost. Too high on the Lucio is just allowing for this entire lineup for Google Dive to move wherever they want and do it so much faster. Amazon DMR just have no time to react, really.
We've got a bit of a stun there into the minefield. Mel Gibson punches his way through the masses and then falls low and has to get out again. Coffee pushing back in, finds Mel Gibson napping, pulls the trigger, sends him back to spawn. Looking pretty good here for Google Dive to hang on to the point for now. They have thrown in a couple of ultimates, but they've got a couple to hang on with ready for this next round of the fighting. We are now seeing them move slightly back towards the point. They're playing a little bit split at the minute. Vapor now with the Meteor Strike. Won't find too much. And Foe Twinny pulls the ripcord on the Beyblade, finds 3, but it's not really been enough here to secure the flip. Mel Gibson got to point and started to get a little bit of capture progress, but it wasn't enough.
No, it definitely wasn't. And now we look at the old situation. They're still in a very good spot when you're your Google Dive here. Especially that Graviton coming up. So much combo potential and finish potential on that one.
Has been a little bit slow in getting that online. You know, we're getting to, what, a total of 110% capped. There's the big shatter. Doesn't catch too high. Pulls out the sound barrier, keeps Coffee alive through the Death Blossom, and we are now at 79%, 80% and climbing here on the point for Google Dive. Download more RAM. If we're being realistic here, they've got one more go at capping Mega Base.
Oh, Phil, the time is definitely ticking. Last fight territory here. Tiku goes down early, and Coffee just doesn't stop.
Man, I love this. Move Alert right up at the choke. Doesn't want them getting anywhere near close enough to get that contest going. Has the shatter, has the threat of it ready to go. Sees them come through. Overtime did get tagged. I believe that's Mel Gibson tagging in there. Charge comes through. Simply boots Move Alert up into the air and then down onto the low ground. And it's a big numbers advantage here for Google Dive. Download more RAM, can try and style this one out if they like, but it's not looking great for them numbers-wise. Farfignugan with a parting blow, but again, numbers and numbers and numbers here for Google Dive on the point, and Coffee on an absolute tear, caffeinating everybody in his wake.
Yeah, and it's just that speed boost that makes all the difference between these teams. Tiku being now on the Lucio in the end is just too late to provide that same advantage. Too high with their entire team of Google Dive. That was just the mobility advantage. They could out-rotate, outplay them any time of the week, really.
Yeah, and it's the classic rushdown style, isn't it? You have the Reaper and you have things for him to hide behind, whether that's the shield, whether that's the Zari bubble, and then you just boost him at the enemy. You throw him at the enemy with that Lucio speed boost, and unless you're very quick at getting a stun or finding a cheeky headshot, that's it. There's not a lot you can do because there's a lot of sustain in that composition. Unfortunately, download more RAM. They just didn't seem to have the new to adapt to that on the fly, but now that they've seen what Google Dive are running, they might be able to pull something different out here and surprise Google Dive.
Both teams coming out with the Ash on this time around, but it's Vapor that's going for the Hanzo versus Foe Twinny on that Reaper. Again, that tank combo of Mel Gibson and Black Betty on the Reinhardt Wrecking Ball. That's really, it's really surprising, but it has been working out so far. It's not been completely useless.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you can get into back line and find the work down on somebody like Saber Seahart, take a lot of the sustain out of the fight, then that's a nice setup for the rest of the team to do the damage they need to do to win out the rest of the fight. Hula finds Vapor, Hula finds Coffee, Black Betty solidly on the point with the shield raised front and center to protect his DPS, and there's the first flip for download more RAM.
And Hula is just set up for all these off angles, for all the shots by either a pile drive or just Mel Gibson booping them into different places away from their Reinhardt shield. So that's a really nice wave, the Wrecking Ball working. We saw it in the last point where the McCree High Noons that was comboed well. But it needs to find consistent value, and that's the tough part. If they react properly to it, it's relatively easily counterable.
It does seem like he's getting fairly deep into the back line, and there's nothing really there that counters him too strongly. Hula's managed to do a lot of work here and has already got the Bob online, has already committed the Bob into the fight, finds one pick with it. Mel Gibson gets the run through, knocks people away and out of the safety of the Reinhardt shield. Movila turned around, faced all that damage to the Bob, and is down, and we're getting close to halfway cap now for download more RAM.
There we see Coffee giving up that Ash, going over to the Reaper again. It was very hard to deal with last round, so I definitely see the thought process already getting Mel Gibson out of the way. That's what a Reaper does. They just chunk down tanks, and that will give a good opening for them to actually go up to the objective and start a fight without being disrupted by the Wrecking Ball.
I think you're right, Classy, but the thing is, Wrecking Ball is going to be back in this fairly quickly. The good thing, though, is that they've now taken the... oh, that was the shadow out. Doesn't catch anybody. Bubble's going to keep him alive through that, so Movehart still in the fight for now. Google Dive finally with a little bit more gas in the tank here, starting to bring things back to around 80% captured for download more RAM, and with a little bit of a swap there and taking that early 5v6, they have secured the flip.
And it's so hard to ignore Coffee's value on the Reaper. Got, I think, 6 kills with a Death Blossom last round. Now is already coming up to another one, barely switched over to the Reaper. So looking like that's a really valuable hero for them. And whether that's Coffee playing well, or whether it's the lack of counter on the other side, that still remains to be seen. We're still quite early in the series, but so far it's looking to be a little bit of both.
Yeah, Coffee is really quickly coming upon this ultimate, considering he didn't change over all that long ago. And Vapor looks up to the sky, sees Hula, threads the hula hoop with the arrow, takes him out. There's another one with the Stormbow, Black Betty down. Ults coming through in big numbers here for Google Dive. A lot thrown at that fight. They almost give up control of the point there because Farfanugan was away in the back getting the cap. And this is not great now for Download More RAM because you're going to get staggered out here if you're not careful because Google Dive are pushing and pushing and pushing. They get the work down, Farfanugan down. And now it's a 5v6. Download More RAM can't engage just yet.
Yeah, but you did mention it. They used a lot of ultimates in that fight to win it. They'll still have 3 in the bank. Not too bad, but Amazon DMR, they're gonna come in with 5 ultimates.
Ooh, there's the minefield out. Mel Gibson drops the payload all over the point. Coffee once more with the spin to win. Takes out both supports. Has the certainty and the surety of the sound barrier at his back. And that's going to be another fight win here for Google Dive, who are rapidly approaching parity with Amazon Download More RAM.
Yeah, because Coffee just hasn't wasted or incorrectly used a Death Blossom yet. They've always gotten at least 2 or 3 kills with it. And if you get that out of a Reaper, then why would you play any other hero? Trying to get the scatter behind them. That's
interesting. This is a Hail Mary from Foe20. We'll find one. Take Saber Seaheart out of the fight, but there's a quick 2k back in the opposite direction. Seeker's able to get the res in. There's the knockdown from the drive-through by the Wrecking Ball. We could see a last-minute flip here from Download More RAM. Mobileart's able to find Foe20. Mel Gibson alive on the point, trying to keep this contested. Hula there as well to rein in the damage. Haven't seen the flip come through just yet. We're still into overtime. Download More RAM still in the fight. They're tagging in. They're tagging out. They're trying to keep us alive as long as they can, but Google Dive have numbers for now. Vapor with the reposition drops to the low ground, wants to get one of these one-hit, one-kills from the Hanzo to work down somebody and take the numbers advantage back into their favor. Vapor and Coffee back in the fight. They're finding kills. And this has got to be overtime ticking down so quick. Google Dive will take that 2-0, but Download More RAM got a lot of progress on the board.
So far, Google Dive is looking very clean in terms of team play. They're able to really move around as a team, as a unit, set up plays together, but also when they're down numbers. You saw in that last drawn-out fight, they're really being... Yeah, I mean, they're really being shot down sometimes. It definitely happens that they're down 1 or 2 players or 3 players even, and then they still consolidate themselves on the objective, stay together, make sure that they back off enough so that they can re-engage when the rest comes back. Like that part of their gameplay is 100% on point right now compared to Amazon DMR. So when we go to further map types which aren't as chaotic, that should shine through even more.
You certainly like to think so. One of the things I wanted to talk about very briefly in between maps was for the period of time on that second map on Busan where Coffee was playing the Ashe, he was struggling in a big way. Hula just seemed to have his number at every turn. Hula got the ultimate online in about a minute, during which time Coffee had got maybe 40% of the ultimate online. It's very strange to me that you would try and run the Ashe when your Reaper is clearly a much, much stronger pick in the situation, because Coffee was just streets ahead on the Reaper in that round. Oh, have we potentially lost Classy there? Apologies, everyone. That might be me. Okay, everybody. Not entirely sure what's happening here. We're going to throw it to a very quick break, and once we've got this ironed out and we've dragged Classy back into the broadcast, we'll be right back with you. Stay with us, folks. Welcome back, everybody. And don't worry, in the interval, we have indeed sent ManofClass away to download more RAM. So hopefully his computer is a little more geared up and ready to bring you the remainder of today's game. And coming into our next map, we are 1 up for Google Dive against Download More RAM. Classy, you're back. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm back. Yeah, I mean, it was a long trip, man. I went all the way back and forth. No, I'm back. It's yeah. I mean, so far the series has been very entertaining. Definitely, Google Dive seems to have a tiny bit of an edge, but a lot of that actually came off the back of just every single Death Blossom finding value on the side of Coffee. If you take away 2 or 3 of those Death Blossoms, it might just be that Amazon DMR is at 1-0 right now. It really that close between these teams at times.
Yeah, I think the thing is that Download More RAM are kind of letting Coffee do this. You know, they've not got a beat on board. They've not got somebody ready to stun him out of that ultimate. They've not really got anything to protect anybody from any of that. So, you know, it's Google Dive. You can say, yes, this has been a wonderful use of the ultimate here, but Download More RAM should have some tools to get rid of some of that efficacy, and they've not been doing that just yet. So coming into the next game, we're hoping that we see a little bit of that from them.
Yeah, and it also really looks like Google Dive counting on the value of that ultimate sometimes will just overinvest with other ultimates. And because Coffee finds so much value with one Reaper ult, they don't really feel like they have to be conservative with everything else. And if you don't see any cupidity from Google Dive, but you can also not punish that, then you're going to be in trouble if you're Amazon DMR. Like, you need to be able to capitalize on ult advantage sometimes. And one ult shutting down your 5-bank ultimate, that's just not good.
Not at all. Starting here on Dorado, we're going to see Google Dive on the defense for the first part. Movalert on the Winston on the high ground. Hasn't opted to go and challenge the Farah just yet. Foe 20 there with Siku at his back. Hulu with the TNT up onto the high ground. Instead gets dived. Finds the Mercy Beam waiting for him around the corner. A lot of damage there onto Movalert, with mobility gets added again. Mel Gibson back on the ball. Can't really get the knockoff they were looking for there. Draws a little bit of focus, takes a little bit of attention away from the rest of the team, but days are going down, has allowed Soldier 7. Soldier 7 brings Dazer back in, but Soldier 7 in the meantime puts themselves into the line of fire of Foe 20, and now there's no res available for Google Dive. It's a 5v6 with a heavy respawn advantage, and Foe 20 with a wind at his back and in his sails will demolish the DPS lineup for Google Dive and set a really good rhythm and a really good pace for the rest of this phase.
Oh, and Foe 20 gets so much space to work with as well. Like, now, of course, Coffee does go over to the Ashe, but before that, there was narrowly a counter. Now, they'll barely not make it to the point. There is a Winston and a Zarya that will touch, but it's not a lot of members alive here for Google Dive.
Movalert not really close enough to the Primal Rage to keep that stall going for a meaningful amount of time. We will maybe see Google Dive stagger in here just to buy a little bit more time. They do find 3 kills here. The res comes back out for both teams. Coffee now on the Ashe with the Nano Boost, doing all the damage in the world, finds the pick onto Siku, now tries to get the work down onto Farfignugan as well. Can't quite find it, but that may have been the play. This might have been enough to keep them in that. Farfignugan's going to get worked down Vapor with the Coalescence. They're still not out of the woods just yet. Google Dive coming back in strong now, and they have managed something of a hold. The Shadow comes through, puts feet on the ground, but there's no follow-up, and Movalert gets into the backline, follows up on the fire from the TNT, and that is it. Google Dive put their feet firmly on the brakes of the payload.
Coffee is just being a bit inhumane right now. I mean, they actually beat Hula into the old charge of the Ashe. Wow. That's how far ahead and how much they did in that last fight. With Coffee not being there, or Coffee doing a medium performance, like a normal performance, they would probably have lost that point. Because Coffee just comes in and essentially is responsible for 5 kills. Yeah. Once again, it's the Reaper, but now on the Ashe. It's the same player.
It's a brave decision. And speaking of brave decisions, straight into the backline, over the top of the barrage. We'll find one. Farfignugan with a second, but they've sent Mel Gibson right the way into the back, and it puts them on the back foot. It puts them at a numbers disadvantage, but Hula's found a way to bypass the fundamentals of mathematics by bringing an additional person into the fight who accounts themselves greatly with 2 picks there. Movalert now with a Primal Rage to keep the stall going out a little bit longer. Will find the pick onto Siku, but has to be a little bit careful because the payload just got that little bit harder to contest with a minefield. A lot of damage comes through onto the shield, means that he can't keep dancing around it for that much longer, but he's buying time, and he's buying space for Vapor and for Coffee to find pick after pick after pick after pick, and Google Dive have now taken Download More RAM down below the minute mark on their push.
Oh, unfortunate. Google Dive just comes back in every single time, and it's always those last two DPS players alive, Coffee and Vapor, that just come back in and just do so much damage. They die initially, but then Mauve Alert and Too High know all they need to do is just stall until our DPS come back, and we'll probably win. And so far, it's been correct. But what happens when Coffee and Vapor aren't there? Let's see if we can get that situation going.
Well, we're going to see Vapor with the dragon ready to go. There's the grab out. He turns. He fires. The dragon comes out. Finds Mel Gibson. Finds Black Betty. We'll get a pushback here. 2 kills. 3 kills to follow up there from the DPS line coming through from Download More RAM. Vapor gets a double, and Seeker brings Black Betty back into the fight. We're down into the deep, dark depths of overtime here. It's a Reinhardt and a Mercy against the world. Black Betty finds Too High. Mel Gibson now back into the fight as well, starting to pressure out Mauve Alert. Now forced to use the Primal Rage to stall this fight out a little bit longer. Mel Gibson's still here, and he buys the space. He swings the arms. He gets the clearance on the payload, and that is going to get Mauve Alert was quite the hero in this round.
That is insane. Every single time you think, oh, Amazon DMR, they might have it. They might get this one. They're clutching it back. There's just always the counter clutch, the supreme clutch, just the over clutch that comes out from the side of Amazon of Google Dive. Whether it's Coffee, whether it's Mauve Alert, there's always someone that just pulls it back, and that's going to be very hard to deal with if you're Amazon DMR, because what do you do if it's not one player you have to shut down, but if it's all the players you have to shut down, like equally, pay attention to them equally? Because you have to make a decision, right? Who do we focus on a target? And you always have to, because otherwise they just won't die, or they won't die fast enough. And what is going to be your primary target? Who do you focus on first? Is it the tanks, is it the DPS, maybe even the supports that they can't do their jobs? It's a hard choice to make. And I think in this situation, if you are Amazon DMR, you have to just control the objective. I think trying to go for the kills is good, but if you control the objective so that even if they get kills, they cannot get anywhere, that's how you can still win this map. Deny them progress above all else.
You see, I actually think during this first corner, before you reach the top of the slope there, Amazon DMR did quite a good job there of focusing down supports specifically, and Fo20 was a big part of that, but once they were past the slope, they just seemed to lose all that target focus. Now, Download More RAM have their shot at the defense here. Going to see Hula starting on the Widowmaker. Coffee here on the Farah. There's a bit of splash damage here, but can't quite focus down Fo20, who will instead get focused down by D.Va. And this is a huge setup here. Having that big, bulky DPS threat that stops the dive tanks, that pressures the dive tanks now out of the fight, is going to be very difficult for them to come back from. The one thing that Download More RAM are doing here is they're doing a very good job of slowing the cart, just by keeping Mel Gibson in range to keep this contested, but that's going to be it. No more health available for that guy, and now Google Dive on a bit of a tear.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mel Gibson just seems to run out of steam every now and then, just cannot quite keep the Wrecking Ball alive and going. And I mean, that's partially support thing, but it's also the Wrecking Ball is not recognizing when they need to go for a health.
Man, this is a very weird position to be playing from Hula. He's playing very low to the ground here. He's now separated from his line of damage by the Winston bubble. Now back on board with Fo20, who is, I believe, playing directly under Coffee at this point, and Coffee himself in a little bit of trouble. Soldier not there to keep him in the fight just yet. Dives into the back line to help protect Dazer. Dazer will just get out of that. Both Coffee and Dazer now very, very low. Soldier pressured as well. Black Betty in the front line will swing through, can't find the kill. Instead, Too High is going to take him out of the fight. Too High now has the nano boost and has the self-destruct ready to go. Presses forward, catches the Reaper coming out of the Wraith form, and now can pincer him in between the rest of the team. Fo20 coming perilously close to having that ultimate online, and now the payload in the final few meters on its journey towards that golden box of victory. Self-destructed over the top, finds two. Siku and Hula both down. 8-ball, corner pocket from too high. Only 2 members of Download More Ram back in the fight, down to 1. Mel Gibson trying to keep this going, but this looks like it. Oh, last second tag in there by Fo20 with the Death Blossom. Will find one, but it's too little, too late, and Google Dive take us to match point in the series.
Google Dive so far just looking just that little bit better than Amazon DMR. It's not like Amazon DMR is doing terribly. Like, you see this play of the game coming out from Hula, you know they're putting out the damage. It's definitely happening. There's just that tiny element of Google Dive's teamwork that is really pulling them ahead right now, where they really understand, you know, when they go in, when the DPS is about to be assaulted, when they're able to actually go up on their own and do something to distract from the rest of the team, when they are supposed to actually focus down their wrecking ball, because that timing is also very important. Like, all of these things are done as a unit, and Google Dive's communication seems to be very on point, and their understanding of how do we play this as a team. Whereas when you look at Amazon DMR side, it's not like it's not there, but when you play that wrecking ball, that combo potential that is there is so hard to pull off, and oftentimes you see Mel Gibson just to be a bit too far away from their team, a bit too disconnected from what the rest of their team is doing. And the same can be said sometimes for Siku. At some point, I saw Siku healing a full health Reinhardt while their 20 HP Ashe was standing next to them. That was actually, I think, in the last fight before they finished their attack round. And it's like, if you manage to keep that Ashe alive, maybe you can get some extra damage, you win that fight, you know, something like that. So there's these tiny little things. They're not huge things. I mean, there's things you can easily miss or misplay that are just not quite clicking together for Amazon that are happening for Google Dive.
And I wonder if part of that is, so far we've only seen Mel Gibson play the wrecking ball, whereas we've seen Google Dive run the Diva, we've seen them run the Zarya from Too High a lot as well, and it makes me think maybe what we've got here is that Mel Gibson is a wrecking ball player. And if you play a lot of Wrecking Ball, particularly on ladder at the sort of region of SR that we're talking about for these teams in that sort of 2,000 to 3.5k range, you have to play Wrecking Ball on your own, like, because no team is going to work around you. And so by having somebody there that just wants to play that solo style, it makes it very hard to actually coalesce into a bigger team strategy. So I'd really love to see a little bit more variety from Mel Gibson in particular to enable his team to play in a bit more of a cohesive team style.
Sure. And that's interesting, right? Because when you look at their team sheet, like the information they gave us, Mel Gibson says his favorite hero, his signature hero is Reinhardt. And then Black Betty comes in with the signature hero of Roadhog. You're like, okay, so why are they both not? Neither of them is on those heroes. Like, Black Betty is instead on Reinhardt, and then Mel Gibson is on the Wrecking Ball. And sure, that's something that happened probably over time where they decided, okay, we're going to just put you on this, or you're going to make you play this. And that's fine, you know, it can happen. But like you said, if you can show that variety and flexibility, you might also be able to put Google Dive in a bit of an awkward position, because so far they are playing very coherently. Their compositions make sense. The way they play as a team makes sense. Then Amazon DMR on the other side, there seems to always be this missing ingredient, this tiny little thing that you think, whether it's a hero swap or just one extra bit of communication that you need. It's not a lot that they're missing, but because they're missing it, you see the disconnect or the difference between these teams.
Sure. Yeah, you absolutely do. And this, unfortunately, is the last chance we've got for Download More RAM to really show us that they can identify what their shortcoming in the composition is. Because for Google Dive, if they take this map, that's it. It's a 3-0. They've taken the series, and then we got to talk to them in the interview phase and have a little bit of a chat about exactly where and when things went wrong for people. Google Dive just need this one map win to take the series, and let's see how they intend to do that as we move over to Eichenwald.
Yeah, Eichenwald, the hybrid map for today, not King's Row, surprisingly.
Very surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly not. And the reason for that, I think, is because Fo20's signature heroes is supposedly Pharah. And if you're a very good Pharah player, you're gonna like Eichenwald more than you're gonna like King's Row most of the time. King's Row, especially point A, is such a good Pharah point. I don't at all blame them for going for this. And also, if you want to roll around with a Wrecking Ball, probably a better map to do it on Eichenwald.
Absolutely. This is an interesting DPS lineup on the defense, though. Coffee back over onto the Ashe, but Vapor now playing the Junkrat, which, when you look at the long approach that you've got to point, is probably not a terrible pick here.
We'll see what they're going to run out with. It is going to be the double hit scan from Fotwin and Hula. Maybe that says something about what they're expecting on the defense. With maybe a but Mel Gibson just gets trapped up.
Do that. Caught like a very literal rat in a trap there, and given over a huge amount of ult charge for basically nothing on that one. And download more RAM, they're going to have to back away and rethink this. In the meantime, Fotwin just taking pot shots to get that ultimate online. Hula not doing too bad in terms of charge, 60% climbing on the board, ready for that Bob to take point A with. Oh dear.
Eddie going down.
That was deep into the backline from Movalert. They turn to deal with him, and Saber Seaheart gets the pick. Mel Gibson's now trying to draw some attention away from the choke, but gives over more than half of their HP to do so. The rest comes back in. Another trap on the field to prevent the rat coming back in and doing that a second time. Do you know what? Just the brains there from Vapor. They went, do you know what? I think Mel Gibson might be coming through to try that again. Let's lay a sneaky trap, and it works out beautifully for them.
It's time to stop. Siku goes down early now as well. They didn't even have Mel Gibson back yet, but they're trying to go on the objective. It's not going their way, Phil.
Nah, man, just taking the 5v6, taking the 4v6 is never going to work out. You need to pop off to a stupendous level to make that work. All you've done is give ult charges over. Look at the glowing ticks for Google Dive here. They've got everything they could possibly want here for the defense.
And it's very telling that it's specifically Mel Gibson and Black Betty don't have anything to work with yet because they've been taken out so far. There is a trap right there. Is anyone going to shoot it?
Oh, he dodges it! He saw it and he stopped going for it. Graviton Surge separates the team out! We saw the Valk come out from Siku. He used it to get out, but with both support ults, lay it in, and nobody left really to make that work. Oh, the tide might be turning here. Hula and Seku able to get a couple of points on the board for that one. Fo20 closing the distance. We get 2 ticks capped here. I thought it was an overinvestment, but they have made this work. Tire coming in now from Vapor. Movalert down, and that's it. The final couple of ticks on the board. How in the heck Download More RAM make that work? I couldn't begin to tell you, Classy.
I mean, they thought he was out, but then Mel Gibson just rolled back in. He just got on the back line. Immediately took down Soldier 007 and Saber Chart. I think like both of them just immediately went down. It was it was a heavy one. Of course, if you come in like a wrecking ball and you kill 2 supports like that, the rest of the fight can be very easy after that.
Yeah, I believe those are the lyrics for the song as well. Moving over to a slightly more divey comp here for Google Dive, perhaps appropriately. With Giant Axe moving over onto the Diva now. It's a 1-for-1 trade of the DPS, but Vapor just lobbing concussive mines point blank range into the enemy's face and finding kill after kill after kill. Black Bay sent back down to the pits thanks to the Bob, and a hold on the defense here for Google Dive.
How many fights can you win in this map? They've won 1 so far. If they can win 2 more, they might be able to make it to the second checkpoint. And then if they win 2 more, might be able to make it to the third. So they need to win 4 fights. It's not a lot of fights to win, but if you lose too many, then it's becoming harder and harder to win them. So may the odds ever be in your favor. May your ult percentage be higher than the enemies. And may you not get trapped, Mel Gibson, because it just keeps happening.
Yeah, it's really rough. But, you know, it's interesting. We got the old adage, you know, 3. Is 3 a lot? Dollars? No. Team fights, yes, absolutely. It's a lot of work to do, particularly when you're already down 2 players. Saber Seaheart getting the work down there with the Coalescence. The Vapor now with the Riptide ready to go. Might not even have needed it here. Straight over the wall. Flap, bang, straight away. Finds the triple. Mel Gibson's able to find 2 here, but is that too little and too late? Because Google Dive have a pretty good run back here. Vapor's going to go down, and this might be one of the team fight wins that Google Dive required.
Yeah, Fo20 now as well on the Reaper. They're going to try and fight around this objective a lot more. Brawl a bit better. Take care of that Winston of Movalert. And Movalert seems to be slightly in trouble already. He did have the Primal to finish that Mercy off, but now it's just the tanks. And Diva already out of mech.
Man, that's a great play from Falconugan. Gets the D-Meg, gets the kill onto Giant Axe as well. This has been a very successful set of swaps here for Download More RAM. Fo20 and Hula put out a huge amount of pressure and a phenomenal amount of burst damage. And that's it, coming back into the point. No time left for the recon test. Self-destruct out, though. We'll find two. Not a terrible place to mount a defense. The door hasn't opened, though, so Move Alert can't back away through it. Coffee finding some damage there onto the Wrecking Ball away in the backline, and they're going to keep this going, Classy.
It's just a shame that self-destruct comes out. Like, I mean, it was a good one, and if they had managed to touch in time, it would have actually held up the fight for a bit. They might have defended a point. Now they don't have it. They only have a Valkyrie to come in with this, with that. Bob does get the kill on the Fo20, at least results into it, but this is not going to be a long fight. I think they're just going to wait for a little bit if you're Amazon DMR.
You know,
especially when Black Betty goes down.
Yeah, I don't think Black Betty could have done much more, though. I think he played that about as well as it was possible to play. Shielded almost all of the Bob, used his last bit of health to charge it away from the rest of the team. Mel Gibson now has the minefield ready to go, and an enclosed space like the castle area here. That could be a big fight winner. They've got 2 minutes now. They can slow this down and wait for some more tools to come online.
I think it's really funny that Hula swapped over to the Junkrat, and then Vapor is now on the McCree. It's like, you didn't have to swap Vapor. You're doing fine.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I guess they just want maybe a little more opportunity to shut down Mel Gibson here. I mean, Mel Gibson is finding picks. He's finding pressure like that. You know, he nearly got the kill there onto Soldier, and instead just has to keep going on into the backline. So, threat to stop him doing that is going to be pretty good value if they can find it. Mel Gibson with the minefield is able to get one here. Hula's got the Rip Tire, finds the Tiny Diva. And they're rounding this final corner with more than a minute in the bank. And Google Dive have nothing on board ready to fight back.
So that tire can just end this map, or at least this round, as it goes out.
I hate it. It's disgusting. Vapor goes down to the tire. Nice defense matrix from Giant Axe. Eats up almost all of that Death Blossom. And another self-destruct in over the top. Will only find Farping Nugan this time, and Hula is still there to keep the damage train rolling on forwards. Vapor finds one with a high note, and we get a remake kill there from Giant Axe. Hula goes down, and second brings Farping Nugan back into the fight. The respawn advantage has got to start paying up here for Google Dive. They've now secured the numbers advantage. Fo20 with the power of the Mercy Pocket and his back is finding picks. He's finding D-Mex, but now he's on his own, and there's less than 30 seconds to go. We've not got much chance here of a proper team fight for Download More RAM.
They just lost the focus fire. They couldn't go after the same target. Saw it happening throughout that entire fight. Now they're going to come back in with barely any tools, but the good thing is that they're closer to anything than Google Drive is. This is definitely where they could come in, but Coffee already taken on Hula is not a good start.
Yeah, and of course, we see Black Betty having to give almost all of his attention there into his opposing number, which means that Giant Axe and Coffee can just chunk him down with a primary fire. Siku brings Hula back into the fight and pays for it with his life. Mel Gibson is drastically searching for this final few specks of damage to get the minefield online, but I believe he died in the middle of the cast of that. Oh, no, might have been stunned out of it. Certainly can't see the mines anywhere. And that's it. Almost all the way through for Download More RAM, but Google Dive just stick a branch in the spokes in the final few meters.
Yeah, their clutch came back in. It was on the back of Amazon DMR, not quite following through on the target focus as much, but now Amazon DMR can show why they chose this map. This is probably the point where they say we just start with a fire on the defense. That being said, they did very well without that fire. They could very well just go with the Junkrat and then a hit scan of some kind or a Reaper again. It was working fairly well. But there is a reason why you chose this map. So far, aside from point A where they struggled quite a bit, they've been rolling quite steadily throughout the rest of that map. They didn't quite complete it. They definitely won a lot more fights and they did very well in a lot of situations where we weren't really expecting them to do as well anymore after that initial just barrage on the defense where they just kept on being trapped and mated up by Vapor.
Looks like we are getting that fire that you predicted coming out from Fo20 Seku on the Mercy, and the beauty of that here, as you kind of alluded to, is that there is so much cover for you to play with here as a fire where you can just like poke your head above the parapet, flash in a couple of rockets, get some kills, get some damage, get some ult charge, and then be immediately incredibly safe again. It looks like we might be getting the mirror here. Coffee currently hovering over the Farah, of course, still a few seconds away from getting a final read on that, but wouldn't surprise me to see them take the mirror here.
No, definitely would not. And Coffee on the Fire hasn't been a weird one to work out with. No Wrecking Ball, of course. Mel Gibson is the only one
And
running that still.
I mean, look, Mel Gibson had the right idea there. It's just the execution was
Yeah.
lacking. He got the roll through. He almost got the focus fire through onto Soldier, but it just didn't happen. And so far,
That's
Google
okay.
Dive have made this fairly uncontested run through onto the point. Mel Gibson spends too long away in the backline and falls to the Stormbow. Vapor's now looking for another pick. Another pick here, one arrow in the right place will completely flip this fight over in favor of Google Dive, but stays a little bit too close to Father Nugan and instead falls to the primary fire. But now Coffee is back in the fight and ready to go, playing up on the high ground. We see the rest come through onto Black Betty, and now Black Betty trying their best to chase Saber Seaheart away from the point as well. This is still not out of the woods territory yet for Download More RAM because Google Dive have not been properly rebuffed just yet.
No, but they do not really find anything right now. As I said, of course, Black Betty does go down. Coffee awfully low, though, but can hide behind the tower and get healed back up.
Yeah, man, that's got to be it. Main tank and your principal spam damage already out of the fight. Seku almost gets the res off. Instead, receives a following wind of barrage to wend them on their way back to spawn.
Yeah, this time around, Google Dive will have a slightly faster approach here on point A. 5 minutes to get to that second checkpoint and then potentially continue forward. But the second checkpoint can be held for a very long time, especially if that high ground advantage is abused properly. Doesn't seem to be the case for most of the team. It will, though, be Hula up there. And Hula from a high ground position, you just have a shooting gallery.
Yeah, I mean, this is the quintessential high ground map and takes the early position, takes the early kill. Coffee's going to go down. Soldier will get the res back up, but Hula still has one more tool in that arsenal. You've seen every other bit come out so far. We'll have the Bob ready to go to equalize on the numbers. Now Vapor is away in the background. Wants to get nice and close to Hula. Misses the shot. Playing right up inside the enemy hitbox. Will eventually get the pick. Yeah, gives them the nod. Throws out the dragon. Somehow finds Foe 20 in midair. Has the high ground position. And this has been a little bit tradey here, but it feels like this should be going the way of Google Dive. But Mel Gibson's mines are starting to turn things around a little bit. Soldier brings Coffee back into the fight. Foe 20 has the barrage ready to go, but can't stay there. That's a...
no!
Foe 20! My friend!
No.
What was that? That's unfortunate to say the least. Oh dear.
Hate to see it. Accidentally using a barrage. Ready for that shatter is Movalert, but who you really going to shatter? They're just rolling around you. Doesn't even hit the
man,
Shatters.
Shatters through the cart. Won't see the follow-up damage coming through just yet, so no kills on the back of it. Giant Axe about to come into possession of a Sparkly Bauble in the form of a Graviton Surge, but they've got the numbers advantage for now, and they might not need to use that just yet. Seeker brings Black Betty into the fight, and we get a 2-for-1 trade. Graviton Surge comes out, locks Black Betty in place, and they take him off at the knees. And now it's down to Mel Gibson to try and round this out a little bit further, gets out with his life and with most of the minefields ready to go.
I will just be able to come back in and stall that payload for even longer, because it's only barely moved halfway through this objective, and Mel Gibson is back. Boops off Saber Seaheart.
Oh no, that is such a good start. And of course, he's got the minefield. Vapor down as well. We have seen some very strange misplays just at this particular archway here. This archway starting to look a little bit cursed for both of our teams. And Giant Axe also. That's got to be a tactical reset, right?
Yeah,
that can't just be another
here.
one. Yeah.
No. They jumped off. You saw them like walking through the cliff. I'm just gonna go because I'm not gonna get out of here. That's fine. Don't give away the time. Giant Axe now going over to the Roadhog as well. I'm liking this. They want to counter environmental kill here. They don't want to be booped off. They want to hook them off that bridge. You gotta be ready for that if you're Black Betty especially. You're such a big target. If you're standing on that bridge, that's what the Roadhog's looking for. But there is the shatter.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1 trade. Vapor's able to find Hula there as well. We'll see the minefield come out and already finds Vapor. And the res is off the table. It just got used to bring Coffee back into the fight. Giant Axe is looking for the hook here to disrupt Mel Gibson. And I feel like Mel Gibson has finally found some value here. He's finding environmental kills, and he's just stalling everybody out. They're taking such a long time to get him out of the fight that the respawns come through, the healing comes through, his adaptive shields come back in, and he can't be stopped. Black Betty finds his way back into the fight, swings through with a hammer, finds two, will get stunned up by the hook, has the low HP, and is going to go down to Giant Axe. Looks like we've got a little bit more of a numbers advantage coming out for Google Dive. Fo20 hooked in, but saved his life for a second there from the tree. Didn't find the follow-up shot from the Roadhog. Instead, the Reinhardt comes through and swings him away. And Mel Gibson is still here. He's still got a minefield, and he almost gets the rundown there onto Soldier as well. Soldier barely escapes on that one. The minefield's going to... Ooh, doesn't quite come out. Vapor focuses him down, but this has been such a strong defense here from Download Moran.
Possible to recontest here as well. Black Betty full health is already at the door. Mel Gibson will be able to roll in very easily as well. It's not quite there yet, but will be able to do so. There they are. The minefield on the cart will just make so much space.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a rough one. That's splitting the team in two. Shadow comes out, Mel Gibson and Black Betty on the ground, but because the team is split in two, the damage isn't there for the follow-up. They don't find the kills immediately. Vapor looks like he's having trouble away in the backline. Might be Mel Gibson keeping him occupied. Fo20 gets the rotation, but Vapor finds him with a primary fire, and that is the high noon off the table. Black Betty has the shatter, and he just got res back into the fight. A shatter here could do wonders for the defense, but Black Betty goes down, killed in the middle of the shatter. Giant Axe with the hook interrupts the damage coming through from Mel Gibson, but we are into overtime now. If Download Moran can find a couple more picks here, this is going to be it.
They need to find something. I mean, at least they have their Wrecking Ball just spinning to win, because apparently Mel Gibson just cannot be taken out. Like Betty, though, does feed over the moral charge. That's the checkpoint picked up, and a minute and a half to get to the end. It is going to the wire. This is not going to be an easy one to complete, but Giant Axe's switch over to that Roadhog. It's not only helped with quite a bit of damage, Giant Axe is just unkillable. Like, they finally have a hero that is so hard to deal with for Amazon DMR that it doesn't even matter if he gets kills or not.
Man, Mel Gibson has these gosh darn mines pretty much on a cooldown. Every 20 seconds like clockwork, it feels like. We'll find one pick already. Hula's down, but expect them to be back in the fight before you know it. Giant Axe goes fishing, can't find anything. Sees Black Betty zooping away into the background, and Movolo, the counter pin, takes him out. We'll see that Square of Doom out from Saber Seahart as well. And they've got the kills coming out in their favor, but Hula gives his life for two with the Riptire. And with the respawn advantage so heavily favoring Download Moran, and with the unkillable, seemingly, Mel Gibson continuously spinning around the point, this may be what Download Moran need to stabilize and mount this final bit of the defense.
Yeah, so far, it's a good start to this defense for the side of Amazon DMR. They are getting some kills here as well. Vapor and Giant Axe already down. This could be the hold, Phil.
Oh, High Noon away in the back. If he holds it for a couple more seconds, that was a beautiful fade from Coffee. Stops that connecting. Will get flashed. The Fan the Hammer won't connect. And now Google Dive are back on the point in a meaningful way. They don't have ults, and they're going to have to try and work this out in the neutral. Vapor now back in on the Doomfist, looking for the pick. That's it. 3 kills in quick succession is likely to give Google Dive a little more momentum here, but the minefields are out, and Mel Gibson engaging in another round of his favorite bar game. That's right, Skittles. Sound barrier comes out, stops him dying yet again, and he's ready to just get in and keep this contest rolling that little bit longer. And with Farfetch'd Nugan able to get into the back as well, just piling the healing into him, it means that Mel Gibson is still in this, still causing trouble, has the adaptive shields, keep himself alive and through that. Even with all the focus coming his way, he's still in this. Ult now coming out, Coffee with the Death Blossom. We're into overtime. They might have got enough kills here for Google Dive. They're halfway into the golden box of victory. They don't have the ults to play with just yet. And Black Betty's coming back at them with the Earth Shadow locked and loaded and ready to go. If the remaining members of Download Moran can keep this going, and they can't, they just die that little bit too quick, and Google dive their way to a 3-0. But what a glow-up, Classy, in that series for Download Moran, looking much, much stronger.
That was so close. And to be honest, they almost, I think they thought they had it. They got 2 picks there, 5 seconds on the clock, but somehow they're not able to finish off these last targets because they pulled the trigger on some ultimate a little too early. They think, oh, they're going to come in now. But then Google Dive has those few seconds to wait, those few seconds to regroup. And then they come in and they finally overpower Amazon DMR in that last part of the Icon Mold map. But unfortunately, that is going to be the series 3-0. And while Google Dive seemed to have the edge for most of that series, there definitely was some potential for Amazon DMR to come back into that. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it work, though.
I feel like maybe if we were playing first to 5 instead of first to 3, we might have seen a little bit more development, some evolution from Amazon DMR. Sadly, 3-0 is all we got time for the match, at least, because we are going to have a bit of a chat to our teams on the back of that and learn a little bit more about the players, the teams, the charities involved. But whilst we line that up for you, we're going to throw to a quick break. Don't go too far because we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Told you we wouldn't be gone too long, and here we are already back. Doesn't time fly when you are having fun? And we're here, myself, ManofClass, and the team captains from today's games. We've got Foe20 from Amazon, and we've got MoveAlert from Google. So, guys, welcome to the stream. Congratulations to Google Dive. Commiserations to Amazon Download More RAM. Let's start with you, MoveAlert. How are you feeling on the back of that win?
I feel pretty good. A little jittery because I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but it was a good game. I have fun.
Were you jittery because you were nervous about today's game, or is that some unrelated thing?
No, I'm just tired, and
I see.
Overwatch takes a lot out of me.
That's fair, and it feels maybe a little bit unfair to ask you this, Foe20, but how are you feeling on the back of that? I feel like your Iconvolt game in particular was very, very strong on that one. Hopefully, you'll agree with that as an assessment.
I actually do agree. We did overall. We feel like we did great. As a team, we're pretty new. We're a bunch of bronze and silver players, and I really hope you guys didn't catch my accidental ult in the middle of the air out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was full POV, man. I'm sorry.
We can just
yeah,
forget
we
about
got
that. But
it's okay. You did an emote in front of an Altine Reaper, so it's all good.
it's true. Thank you. Needless to say, my nerves were kicking in, but it was a great game. Great game overall, and well played by Google.
It was certainly a lot of
course,
fun to watch and a lot of fun to cast. Classy, I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you guys, you had a good game. You said you're a very new team. When we looked at your team sheet, I immediately see, oh, they have a website for an Overwatch team at Amazon. That's fun. Let me check that out. And you see all the pictures and all the lines under it. Like, has that website been online for long? Like, what was the whole thought process behind that? Like, creating that whole infrastructure, essentially.
Yeah, basically, this is our third season, not taking the CEA league too terribly seriously, more so for the charity aspect of it all. But this was the first year we decided to have a website and just sort of have sort of a team camaraderie feel, even when not in game. We all hang out together. We all work in Southern California, and it was just to add some fun to the team this year.
A good deal. It seems to be working.
So if we move away from the game for a second, I wanted to give you both a little bit of an opportunity to talk about specifically why you've chosen the charities that you've chosen. So MoveAlert, if you can, sorry, MoveAlert even, don't know where that one came from. If you can give us a little bit of an insight as to why you've picked the charity, hopefully that is a thing that it means something to you and the team personally.
Yeah, sure. So actually, when we formed the team, I asked for charity suggestions. This one wasn't mine, but it's a great charity. Human Rights Watch, uh, you know, does they send observers out to document various human rights issues around the world, which are of course very important. Yeah, and it's a great charity that we're happy to have selected for 3 seasons in a row now.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And the same question to you, Foe20. Tell us a little bit about why you've selected St. Jude's.
Yeah, we've always decided to play for the St. Jude's children. It's always been our charity of choice, also for the third season in a row. And just love to raise awareness and money for the children. For the children!
Well, very glad to hear it. Yeah, of course. I mean, so Amazon download more RAM. You're a bit of like this iteration is apparently a bit newer, so you guys still finding each other's groove. How is that on the side of Google Dive? Because you seem to be very coherent as a team, I must say.
So Dive, like we've existed for 3 seasons. Unfortunately, we lost a number of folks, in the transition from spring to fall this year. Some folks, a couple of people left the company. Someone just wanted, to play something that wasn't Overwatch, which is very fair. Stuff like that. And we have one person actually who's still on our roster, but is stuck overseas during the pandemic. So I wouldn't I wouldn't want to ask him to play with 250 milliseconds of ping. I did that last season, and or last fall, I guess. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
think completely fair on that one.
There's a team in what is it, North American Trials right now that's called 200 MS. They're all Koreans and they play on it. So it's not saying it's impossible, but no, I get it. I've played an American server as a European. I know how.
When I was playing from Seoul last fall, I had like so many cooldowns refunded all the time. It
Wow.
becomes more of a
Yeah.
predictive thing.
Yeah.
That.
So I wanted to touch very briefly. Again back to Google Dive. One of the ways that we as casters figure out what we get to talk about and who we get to focus on is looking down team sheets. And we, for the second week in a row, you've got one of these rare gems that we almost never get to see as casters. In the Saber Seaheart is a 3-figure SR player at 700 SR. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like playing with somebody who is from that sort of elo?
It's interesting. Like I'm very supportive, especially because like when I first start playing tournaments, 2017, I guess. Like I was hard stuck 1000 SR bronze player. So I can relate, and I got some really great pointers, and I've talked to Saber a fair amount about the game, and like I think part of the trouble is that like once you're in bronze, like you don't really see Overwatch as Overwatch. Arguably, you don't see Overwatch as Overwatch until like GM or something. But it becomes less and less coherent, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Um,
I can believe that quite easily.
Yeah, but Saber's a great guy, and I'm happy to have him on the team.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and he definitely, and like I definitely think he plays with us a lot better than his SR would suggest.
Yeah, this was by no means me trying to cast aspersions on Saber at all. I actually think they performed very well today. It's just that it's interesting to get the perspective of, how SR and your actual ability to play aren't always that interlinked, particularly because once you hit bronze, the things that you get told to do don't work anymore because you're so deep in the quagmire.
Right, and I think the other thing is that to some extent it's a little easier to understand what to do. Like the team game is on the whole much more difficult, but to some extent it's easier to understand like what you should be doing at any given moment in the more structured team fights. Yeah.
That
Right,
makes a lot of sense. Do you have anything to weigh in here from the side of Amazon? You were saying that the elo wasn't particularly sky high on your side either.
It wasn't. For the most
Okay.
part, overall as a team, we're mostly, I'd say a mixture of bronze and maybe wood. So most of us work night shift, so our times to get together as a team and practice are minimal, but we try and make the most out of that time and at least have fun with it, and sort of give you guys the idea that we look like we know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, it didn't look completely incoherent. I especially like the way you guys try and play around Mel Gibson on that wrecking ball. Is that something? I mean, without giving too much away of the strategy, like is that something you're specifically, communicating around as well?
Absolutely, Mel Gibson is our free-spirited hamster tank that takes no prisoners. He he outlasts them all, and he's our go-to when things get a little tough, especially on point. Just hold on to the escort and do circles. We'll be there in a minute.
Yeah, he was doing a lot to keep those fights going way longer than those fights should have been going. So tip of the hat to Mel Gibson. That was particularly well done.
Yeah, I haven't seen that much stall since I was last on a farm.
So, guys, I think we're very rapidly coming to the end of this interview section. But before we let you go, we'd like to give you the opportunity to maybe give a shout out to somebody that's watching, or to say hi to anybody that might be watching. So, if we throw that to Movil first, anybody you'd like to say hi or give a shout out to?
Oh, sure. I'll give a shout out to my partner who puts up with me ignoring them for like a couple hours at a time on a couple of weeknights for our scrims and such. And has been very supportive of me playing.
And same opportunity to Photo Any as well.
Yeah, a huge shout out to my entire team, Hula, Black Betty, Siku, everybody on the board. Thank you for showing up. You guys are all night shift. You guys are troopers for getting like 3 hours of sleep and coming to play. Google, big shout out to you guys. Great games.
Thanks.
And a big shout out to you guys, CEA, for putting on an excellent tournament.
Oh, that's very kind of you to round out the show that way. So, Fo20, Movala, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you return to your teams to celebrate and plan the next round accordingly. And for myself, ManofClass, and the rest of us here at CEA, that is unfortunately the end of today's broadcast, but don't despair because we're going to be back next weekend with even more Overwatch action, and we hope you'll join us.